Alright everybody, how you doing? Welcome to another video. So, Lightwork for Lightworkers is the name of the Facebook group. And Mona yesterday posted something, pretty detailed question. And I was definitely moved by it, so I wanted to make a video about it, so I let her know. And then a couple other things actually happened over the course of the day and this morning that sort of added to it. So I'm going to read you the email first, and then I'll tell you the other couple of things happened. So Mona says, everyone is talking about December 21st. Can I have your opinions and predictions? I've been hearing disclosures of the political system, corruption, currency system, education, shift in dimensions, and low frequency people vibrating out of our reality. What exactly does it mean to be in low vibration? I know I see truth, not brainwashed. I believe I am connected to Source. But I am having a hard time in life right now and having some health and financial issues. I still feel like I am the loving, empathetic, I cannot say that word, empathic, I think is actually what it should be, light worker, healer that I am. Is it just a test? Darkness trying to make me go back to my old self? What we go through is karma also, right? Does this mean me and others in my position are not spiritual or a good person as we thought? Will we be left behind? I am also still learning, and I'm sure a lot of you know more than me and can shed some light. I think when you hear what a lot of spiritual people are saying, it can be discouraging if your life isn't the best right now. I think it can make people question who they are and what they're doing. Thanks for reading, for your light and energy exchange in this post. I'm appreciative and grateful. So, there's a lot there, and obviously I'm going to get to it as much as I can. But what happened after that, actually yesterday was my son wanted to have a discussion with me later on in the day, where he felt like he had purposefully blocked out his spirit, or I guess, he wasn't too pleased with the answers he was getting some time back, so he purposely felt like he had blocked out spirit, so he was asking me how to reconnect. And then Karen and I were talking this morning, and she made the point, which is something, of my blind spot, so to speak, which she's correct on, and that is that not everybody has a direct connection to Source. Not everybody just gets clear answers for whatever question that they're asking, or even more, most of the questions they're asking. So it can be difficult for someone like myself or others who have a really strong connection to relate to that. And so she kind of felt like it was important that I touch on that as well. So, a couple of things. The first thing I want to get into is, and this is not going to be in order, but we'll just start with the low vibe thing. Here's what I'll say about that. Don't let anybody tell you what your vibration is. Now, if you have somebody who does a reading for you and they have an inclination or they have a feeling about your vibration, that is one thing. But don't let anybody tell you, especially in a negative way, what they think is wrong with your vibration. And I'm going to give you an example why. It's a personal example. To make a long story short, there's one particular Lightwork group that I'm a member of that, let's just say there were a couple people over there that were not happy with the fact that I was posting my videos because they viewed it as marketing. Okay, fair enough. However, in one of the comments that they made back and forth talking about me was that the fact that I was sharing my Lightworker videos to a Lightwork group was what they called low vibe. So, do not let anybody tell you that you are low vibe. Don't let anybody tell you that your vibration is anything other than what you think it is, unless, like I said, it's somebody that you've invited to check out your energy field and report back to you, okay? Because that's number one. Because everybody's going to have personal biases as to how it should be done. Definitely, your vibration. If you feel good, and you feel happy and you feel impenetrable and you feel like you could stand there and somebody could throw punches at you or throw rocks verbally, physically, you know, if you feel like you can stand in your truth and not be negatively affected, then you are in a high vibration. All right, so we'll just start there. Now, financial problems and health problems. Okay, look, everybody who's broke or could be broke really quick, raise their hands. Okay? All right, that absolutely, light workers struggle just like everybody else, and many times we struggle much more than everybody else because, you know, we sort of invest our energy and times into things that maybe aren't exactly financial windfall creating. We'll just put it that way, okay? Yeah, definitely do not use your finances as a sign of whether you're a light worker or not, or, you know. And as far as the health issues are concerned, I don't know what exactly your health issues are, so I'm not diagnosing, but I, like you Mona, you were there that whole time that I had this tooth problem, and, you know, Karen made the point when I was going through it that I was probably leveling up and that I was going to get, you know, more gifts coming in terms of, you know, the readings and the intuitiveness, and she was dead on right. As soon as the tooth cleared up, you know, what I'm able to do as far as channeling and help people has expanded significantly. So, the point is that there's a significant possibility, like I said, I don't know your health issue, but it could easily be spiritual in nature, and it could be ascension symptoms from leveling up, or it could be the possibility exists of you being under some sort of spiritual attack because you are growing that way. You know, energies will find a way in. They do it all the time. And what I would recommend, what you do to have a clearing, whether you do it with yourself or you have somebody do it for you. I would just start dusting things off just a little bit. Whatever process that you personally use to have a clearing, and this is going to go for anybody anyway, I would definitely get to that point where you're feeling like you're cleansing out, whether it be old energy or, you know, making room for new energy to come in. Doesn't have to be anything, no, it doesn't have to be a huge ceremonious type thing. It can just be something, you know, where if you've got 10-15 minutes to you know, even just reciting something that you've written to yourself and to the universe to clear out old energy, that sometimes those smallest things can absolutely help. Now, and to the other one of the other questions you had was, you know, somehow things are making you feel like, am I still a good person? Am I still a light worker? Am I, you know, because you're struggling and you have these questions about what's coming up on December 21st. So I'm going to try to answer as much of that as I can. And remember, this is for everybody. That's the point here. Is Mona is not alone, right? Everybody knows it. There's a lot of people that are going through this right now, and you know, the truth of it is that I'm no different than anybody else. I come on, I'm doing the videos, and I appreciate everybody that watches. But guys, I mean, look, unless I'm channeling something, which is me just being a conduit, the rest of what I'm telling you is from life experience, okay? I have lived it. So, the point to that is that we'll start with what's coming in December. We all feel it, right? I spoke about this in the video yesterday. We all feel like there's this thing that's happening. And then we all have our own visions and versions, I should say, of what we think is going to happen. We've all gotten some kind of message, and it all is a little bit differently. I've shared my visions on a couple of videos, And, you know, everybody's feeling something coming. So, to answer your question, none of us know. And that is why in yesterday's video, I've been very, very animate about preparing regardless of what happens, because none of us know. And if anybody is, you know, married to one result and that result doesn't happen, it could definitely, you know, it's going to have the possibility of really knocking you out of alignment. Now, if I had to venture a guess, personally, I think that, you know, probably something going down with the election. Things could look like they're going to go in one direction all the way up till December 21st and then totally flip on its head. We don't know. We're not going to know. And I spoke about that in the daily today, actually, and I've said it multiple times where, you know, be careful what you read into what's happening, right? You know, things are going to look one way. It's not, you know, there's no guarantee it's going to work out the way that it's looking like. So the best thing that anybody can do at this point is just stand back, sit back, watch what's happening. Just watch it like it's a movie, and do the internal work to prepare yourself for whatever's coming. So, in terms of, let me see the rest of this. All right, so the next thing you asked, made a statement about is this darkness trying to get you to revert to your old ways? Are you going to be left behind? Does this mean something about you and your friends? And this, again, applies to everybody. First of all, as far as being left behind, it depends on what your definition of being left behind is. It depends on what you want. I mean, look, I'm going to use a hypothetical example, right? Okay, but there are people that believe that aliens, mothership is going to come down and take a portion of humanity. But which one do you want? Do you want to go with the aliens? If they leave you here, do you feel left behind? Or if they take you, do you feel left behind by the people on Earth? You see what I mean? It's a personal thing. And I get that that's just one analogy, but in terms of being left behind, really it only applies to what is it that you want the end result to be. And again, that circles back to what I talked about in yesterday's video, is in doing the work now to prepare yourself for, well, if this happens, this is what I want to do. And if this happens, this is what I want to do. So in terms of being left behind, I spoke about that in my other video, right? Where I feel like I'm going to be left after a portion of humanity goes away. But it's a feeling. It's you know, I've had visions, it's a feeling, but everybody's been having visions and feelings. They're all different, right? So, like I've said, we're clearly channeling and getting these messages from one source. And they clearly want us to feel like something is coming. They're preparing us for something, and we don't know what it is. So I don't think anybody's going to be left behind, to be honest with you. I think whatever we go through as a collective and as individuals is what we came here to do, is what we signed up to do, right? So whatever happens to me, that is the experience I wanted to have. Whatever happens to anybody else, you know, in our heads, we may think we wanted it differently here or there, but if we subscribe to the theory that we sort of, you know, signed a life contract or, you know, soul contract and agreed to go through these things before we came here, then if there's an end game for us, we probably agreed to it at some point. Now, As far as dark entities trying to get you to revert to previous behavior, do I know that? For sure, no. I don't know the health issues you're having. I don't know the specifics. But what I do know is that, yes, it's possible. Absolutely. Anybody who's gone through any sort of, and I'm not saying that you had an addiction or anything, I don't know the specifics, but anybody that's gone through anything that they've tried to change in their life knows, I mean, that's why they call them demons, right? You're gonna, I've got to shed my demons, I've got demons. That's why it's called that, right? Because, inevitably those patterns are going to make an attempt or multiple attempts to come back, and many times it's successful until you kick it to the curb again and again and again and again. So could your physical symptoms be something like that? Absolutely. And that's why it's a good idea to start doing some clearing out, to do some cleansing. And that goes for anybody. And this is going to kind of go into what I was talking with Karen and Kyle about being able to have that clear connection with Source, or getting it back if you've cut it off. Because the idea is that if you're going to do a cleansing, if you're going to do it for yourself, you kind of need to be self-aware enough to know that if you start getting some resistance, that doesn't feel like yourself. Because then at that point, that'll be a confirmation that there might be an energy coming in from the outside, and at that point, you might want to seek help in terms of another light worker or somebody that you trust that works with energy. Doing it all yourself, if you genuinely feel there's something negative attached to you, it's not recommended. I think everybody needs some help in that regard sometime. But in terms of that connection with spirit and how to turn it back on, or what to do when you aren't getting clear answers, I've preached this. Some of you are hearing this probably for the 15th time. Start with small things. Even if you feel like sometimes you do have that direct connection, but you feel like sometimes you can't quite get it. Well, when you start with small, inconsequential things, and you continue to build from that, it's just practice. Okay? If you want to learn to play darts, and you put the dartboard up in your room, okay, and sometimes you hit bullseye, sometimes you hit the wall and miss the dartboard entirely. But if you start practicing when there's nobody around and it doesn't matter, okay, you start to get the motion down. You start to get the feeling down of hit bullseye. I hit the bullseye. I know I missed that one. Okay? You get to knowing, you get to feeling it. You can feel it when you're going to be successful because you've had it so many times. So the easiest, quickest way to rebuild a connection with spirit, or to strengthen an inconsistent connection with your spirit, is by starting with small, inconsequential things. Okay? Something that you just want to practice the process of asking the questions, and I'm going to talk about this. Asking the questions, getting to the answers, admitting those answers to yourself, and then remembering how it felt. Because it's the feeling that you need to learn to capture. Okay? Because many times you might think that you don't have a connection to spirit, or that you're not getting the appropriate answers, but there's one of two things in play. Number one, there's a possibility that it's happening so quick that you miss it. And number two, there's a possibility that you don't really want to hear what spirit has to say, so you just kind of like, whoop, whoop, what? I didn't hear anything, but you know you did. Okay? So, and that's the other part to it, right? And being willing to accept what you're hearing from spirit. The way that I've told my coaching clients, and I gave Kyle this technique last night, is to ask yourself easy questions that you continue to ask yourself why. And here's the analogy I gave him. Let's say your foot hurts. So you ask spirit, ask your gut, well, why does my foot hurt? Well, because my shoes, I got crappy shoes. Well, why do you have crappy shoes? Well, I'm broke. Well, why are you broke? Well, because about a year ago, I left my job because I wasn't happy with what was going on there, and I missed my old job, and I got frustrated, and I quit. Well, why did that happen? Well, I had to quit the original job because my spouse wanted to move, and I was afraid that they were going to leave if I stood my ground and said I wanted to stay. Bingo. You were afraid. You made a decision from fear. So your foot hurts because a year and a half ago you made a decision from fear, based on fear, and you didn't remain true to yourself. When you ask yourself questions like that, there's two things that are in play. Number one, you start to learn so much more about yourself because you're going to be willing to answer those questions for yourself. Okay? If you get to a point where you're shaky and you don't want to hear it, then you've got more work to do. But if you can get to that final reason, if you get to the part where, I was afraid my spouse was going to leave me if I stood my ground, and now my foot hurts. So then once you discover that, then you can go back and revisit and go deeper and say, well, why was I afraid? And you can just continue going back further and further and further, asking yourself, why? Now, you might want to pick something even, more simple than that. Small things. Okay? Small little things that you are sure you're not going to be afraid of what the last final answer is. Because overwhelmingly, the majority of the time, and I'm no different, I am not preaching, I'm admitting, majority of the time, whatever is wrong in your life, if you go back far enough, you're going to be able to find where you screwed up and did something stupid, something out of fear, something that you already thought you had learned a lesson about. It's going to be, most of the time, our own fault. So you have to be willing to accept that. So, once you're willing to accept that, and you learn the process and you're used to the process of digging that deep, getting the answer, and recognizing the answer when it is there, and accepting it, and you're not fighting it anymore, then it becomes a lot easier. Okay? Then you can start to skip the first 5 questions, and you can just kind of get to your, get within yourself and realize this is why that happened. Because the process becomes very, very streamlined. And then you suddenly feel like you have a new connection with spirit. It was there all the time. It just needed to be developed. So, I would significantly encourage anyone who is struggling with any of these issues like what Mona brought up to do a few things. Number one, use the technique that I just presented to strengthen your relationship with spirit. Okay? And look, I mean, even I do it from time to time. I did it today on something silly. Something silly that I just wanted a clear answer on. I got it. I certainly got it. But no one is plugged in permanently, right? No one, like I said, no one is higher or lower or better or worse. We're on a path, and some of us are just further along the same path. But we all go through the same things, and definitely financial struggle and physical symptoms are on the path, Mona. Okay, I can guarantee you, and I'm sure there's a lot of people shaking their head right now, that is part of the path. The fact that Mona wrote that message, wrote that question, to me that shows that you are a light worker. You absolutely are on the right path. You're absolutely moving in the right direction. When you hear these things, I know I've channeled some pretty unhappy messages. But when you hear that something bad might happen, or like you mentioned in the message, where you feel like, maybe you're not as much of a light worker as you thought because your life isn't going the way that you thought it would. Let me tell you something. If things are not going the way that you planned, that means oh, I'm glad this came up. If things in your life are not going the way that you planned up here, that means down here is in control. That means you're following your gut. That means you're following spirit. That means spirit is driving the car and you're just in the car and you're sitting there wondering, okay, what's the next turn? That is a huge positive sign. Because think about anything positive that's come in your life in terms of manifesting it. We think up here how it's going to present. We think this is how it should show up and this is how it'll be. Are we ever right? Does it ever happen the way we plan it to be? I talked about that yesterday too. It doesn't. Overwhelmingly, it just doesn't turn up that way. So, if your life is not going the way that you thought it would, or the way that you had planned it, okay, good. That means you're not thinking you're along for the ride. That means spirit's in control. And I know it's difficult to hear. I have to tell it to myself many times. But the road that you get on when you let spirit in control, you're in, I'll use another analogy. You're at the beach. You don't want to be at the beach anymore. You want to be in the mountains. You tell spirit, all right, get me to the mountains. Now for you might think, well, spirit's going to put me in a plane, and we're going to fly, and I'm going to get to the mountains, right? Because that's how it should work. That makes sense, and it's logical, right? Yeah, if you were the only one on the planet, but the universe is working with everybody else's infinite energies. They've got to orchestrate an entire symphony of events to happen to get you to the mountains. And there's going to be plenty of things along that way that you look at and say, what? Why is this happening? Why do I have to go through this? This isn't what I wanted. Look at me. I'm broke now. I'm sick because I'm stressed out and nervous. And then these people are coming on and making videos and they're telling me just, trust in your truth and spirit will get you there. Just trust and have faith. But meanwhile, you might lose your job. You might be forced to move somewhere that's not the mountains. You might lose friendships, argue with people. All sorts of things are going to happen. But, here's the big but. Big but. Big booty butt. If you don't change the trajectory, if you stay in the vehicle, you'll eventually get to the mountains. Spirit will get you there. And then, once you get there, the fun part is looking backwards and seeing all the crap you went through that you thought for sure meant that you were doing something wrong, that if you reverse engineer it, you realize, well, that happened because of this and this and this and this and this and this, and that's how I ended up in the mountains. Are you kidding me? Huh? What? What? Once that happens, once or twice, you learn to trust the process, and it makes the ride easier. Doesn't make it easy, okay? But the questions that you're having right now flip around. You get to a point where you realize, well, I'm sick and broke. I must be doing the right thing. Okay? And I know how that sounds. I to the as some people call it, to the 3D world. That sounds like a bunch of malarkey, right? But anybody who's had success manifesting, anybody who's had success working with spirit knows the path is not easy. If the path was easy and simple, everybody would be in the mountains. Everybody would be doing it. It's not how it works. You have to develop that relationship with spirit with small, inconsequential things so that you learn the process. And so that you know, all right, there's a little bump, that's happening, and you stay in the car, you stay in the vehicle, and you don't get out. You learn through the small things, so that when you're trying to get to something big, you're like, all right, I know this music. They're going to beat me up. They're going to bounce me around. Ah, look, I lost my job. I'm still going to the mountains. So, last thing, I don't want to make this too long. Couple of things. First of all, for me, I almost want to say there's no such thing as a low vibe. And I get that's wrong, right? I get that there's evil in the world and bad people and what like that, or people that do bad things anyway. I shouldn't say bad people. So yeah, I mean, there are people that have lower vibrations, and there's things that will put you in a lower vibration. But there's some things that for some people will put them in a lower vibration, and for other people will raise their vibration. It's absolutely on an individual basis. So when you see somebody telling you 3 things to raise your vibration, it worked for them, that's nice. Maybe it'll work for you, but it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong if it doesn't work. Okay? It is extraordinarily, we each have our own individual vibration. It's infinite. There are no two that are going to be alike. So how in the hell can the process to raise that vibration that's unique be the same as this one, and this one? It's going to be different. You can take suggestions, you can take ideas. Okay, but even the cleansing ritual, I don't recommend to anybody because it's different for everybody. I have 2 or 3 different ways that I do it. But it works for me. It doesn't mean it's going to work for anybody else. So that's the first thing. Is that no more comparing. None of us. With the comparisons. This one knows more. This one's higher. This one's got a higher vibration. We don't know that. How we present, that's just the shell. I don't know what's going on completely inside of you. You don't know what's going on completely inside of me. Now, some of us have gifts that they can kind of see things and get messages and be told things. Nothing's perfect, though. So no more self-judgment. That's number one. You have to kick that to the curb. because there are no rules to this. There's nobody better than the other. It just isn't. It just isn't. So we'll start there. The second thing is finding a way to keep your energy field the way that you want it to be, without completely blocking everything out. Now, again, this is different for everybody, okay? Absolutely different for everybody. And with what's going on in the world today, the overwhelming constant barrage of negative information flowing into us, it's unheard of. It's absolutely absurd. And we could easily trick ourselves into thinking, well, it's not bothering me. It's not affecting me. Not affecting me negatively. And there's a trick that gets played by the dark side there. You watch something, you listen to something, you're stuck on the internet for 2 hours, and you're reading all this negative stuff. You're seeing it, watching videos. And you get done, you're like, I don't feel bad. I don't think this is negatively affecting me. Okay. Maybe it's not negatively affecting you. But what did it stop you from doing? What could you have done with that time? See, the chemicals that we get from watching this stuff and listening to this stuff, it's been proven. It's addictive. Even if it's bad news. I mean, that's why the news is all bad, right? It's dark. It's not happy times. Because for some reason, the way humans' chemistry works, we get a buzz. So you may feel like it's not negatively impacting you because you don't have any concrete evidence of, well, this bad things happen, or I feel bad. Although physical symptoms can manifest, right? But the flip side to that is, what could you have done with that time? What are you not doing with that time that you could have done, but you got stuck? And the point is that right now, with everything that's going on in the world, it is so damn near impossible to click that machine on or pick up that phone and not get stuck somewhere. So, absolutely, infinitely important. If you want to have a clear connection to your source, you have to spend time with your source. And Google is not your source. The internet, Facebook, Twitter, none of that is your source. You have it right in here. So, a lot of these questions that people are feeling are simply from a lack of communication with yourself. Because look at what we're being bombarded with. Constantly, non-stop. It's almost impossible to look away. So it can cause people to feel like, well, first off, it can cause physical symptoms, but it can cause people to feel like they're adrift, they're lost, they can't get connected, they can't quite get in alignment the way they were, and they can't figure out why. Just not spending enough time actually in the doing. There's a lot of thinking going on, okay? But even I haven't, like I say, I'm not preaching here. This is personal experience. Even I get stuck. Even I have kind of shortened some of the outside time that I go when I do my rituals and my walking. Not by much, not by much. But I can tell you, the energy has been thick. It has been, interestingly enough, as now that I think about it, it has been extremely more difficult for me to tap in with myself. Tapping in with others is like this now. It's like I feel like this permanent connection. But over the last week, 10 days, connecting in with myself has taken a little bit more effort than normal. And I think it's just because everybody is just bzzz, right? Everybody is just vibrating with all of this constant information. It's just a constant buzz. You can almost hear it. You can certainly feel it. So I certainly would not be too difficult on yourself for anybody who's having these questions and feelings of either inadequacy or doing something wrong or not being on the right path. Some of these negative feelings you have to give yourself a pass for, because these are tough times. The planets are going batshit crazy. The planet is going batshit crazy. And there's no knowing of what's going to happen. You know, you can't plan much more than a week in advance right now to know, are we going to be shut down? You know, am I going to be able to make a trip? Am I going to be able to go see my family for the holidays? And you sure as hell can't start making plans for spring, right? So the not knowing, again, that ends up leading to insecurity. You think about it in terms of your own, just your personal relationships. If you don't know how that person is feeling or what that person is going to do, you're going to have an insecurity about the relationship. When you think about it in terms of, you know, like what Mona has written here, and I know a lot of people are feeling the same way. But if you don't have an ability to have even some kind of knowing of what you're going to be able to do, just by definition, it's going to create some sort of insecurity about what you're doing now. Because you don't know if what you're doing now is going to even have an effect or be relevant to what you're going to be doing in a month, 2 months, 6 months, next year. Plans have become obsolete. Can't make them. Can't make them until all this shit gets sorted out. So don't give yourself, everybody, please, stop being so hard on yourself. Don't look at it so closely. Lean back in the chair. You know, I've told you, I've said it 100 times, stay in the car. Now I want you to recline the seat. Okay? Recline the seat and just kick back and watch this show. Because nobody's going to manifest their way out of this. Nobody's going to vibrate their way out of this. This is real. This is what's happening. We manifested this as a collective to go through it as individuals. So, I absolutely agree with Mona and Karen and Kyle in needing to know how to have a more direct connection to source. Needing to know that if you have a question about something, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, like that, but within a reasonable amount of time, you can get a pretty clear and concise answer. And many times, like I said, you're actually might be getting the answer, you just don't hear it. I do it. We all do it. I'm not preaching. The other part to that is if you feel like you don't have the connection, and you feel like you're not getting the answers that you need. The universe is going to send people your way. The universe is going to send people your way. Spirit will find people that are going to come to you and say, well, what about this? What about this? Have you thought about this? But you have to be open to hearing it. You have to be open to maybe hearing a little bit of criticism or advice that you're kind of resistant to. That's the universe trying to help you out. Like, all right, the connection in here is blocked. Let's send somebody or something from the outside. Paying attention is extremely, extremely important at this point. to all the little details of what's coming your way if you're feeling like you don't have your own personal connection. Because eventually, the more that you pay attention, the more you acknowledge, that's what's going to develop the connection. That's what's going to, and that's what's going to be able to answer the questions that Lana has, the questions like what Karen had, Kyle had. And that's why I'm focusing on that. Because the whole idea here is to make it so that everybody can answer those questions for themselves. That's the goal, right? Nobody wants to constantly have to ask, well, what about this? Do you think I'm doing this right? Do you think I'm doing this right? I mean, everybody's going to want advice now and again, but we all want to be able to find those answers within. So, last thing I'll say, this one's going to be a little bit preachy, and maybe it's because I need to hear it myself. I get it, right? That some shit's going down in the world. I do, I get it. I'm paying attention just as closely as the next guy. But, two things. Number one, I talked about this in the Facebook group today. I'm bringing the puppets in. For those of you who don't know, in my hockey channel, I have a bunch of puppet characters. They're not exactly politically correct. Pretty bad accents, but they're fun. And we need some frickin' fun around here. Okay? We've got to have some fun. Absolutely need to have some fun, some humor, some levity. I can't stand here 365 days a week and preach and lecture, right? Which I know it comes off that way sometimes. I'm sorry. I don't mean it. Like I said, I'm either channeling or giving you guys personal experience. But I know the way I talk sometimes can come off as preachy. It's not what's in my heart, just so you know. So I'm going to be doing that. The second thing is, and this goes for everybody, put the fucking machine down for 5 minutes. The laptop, the phone. Put it down. Close the damn thing. Go outside. And think about something else other than what you just saw on your device. Now I get it. I'm not sitting there saying I don't do it. Okay, like I said, I am talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to anybody else. But if you're struggling and you have questions that you feel are not getting answered, you won't find them on the internet. Not anymore. Not the answers that we're all seeking. Okay? The time is now. Talked about this yesterday's video. Opportunities. Especially if we get locked down again. The opportunity is now to take that time to do the deeper work. To take that time to learn to know yourself. It's absolutely imperative because we don't know at what point that all we will have is ourselves. So, I know it's preachy. I know everybody says it, and you can go to the internet and read articles about how the internet's bad for you. But just put it down. 5, 10 minutes, hours at a time. Do what you can. Try to build on it each day. You know, everybody's got that routine, right, where they're looking at things, or watching videos, typing on Facebook, whatever it is. Everybody's got that routine. So just start chopping it a little bit each day. This day, what's tomorrow? Wednesday? Yeah. So Wednesday you take 5 minutes off. Thursday you take 6. Then 7. Then 8. And see how far you can go. Make it a game. See if you can get up to an extra hour. See if you can take an hour back of your life. While at the same time, just using it for you. Just for you. Don't make it a time to go to the grocery store, run an errand, take the dog to the river. Use it just for you. If you have questions like Mona did, Karen and Kyle, use that time to hopefully go outside if you can and ask yourself those questions. Ask them of yourself and go deep. Continue to go deep. You'll get the answers. But we all have that connection. We all have it. All right. I hope this answered some of your questions. Now, last thing I'm going to say is I've been making 2 videos a day now. This is the 2nd day in a row. I'm going to try to get used to making 2 in a day, because Spirit has been telling me for months that I need to make 2 in a day. 2 a day. That'll be a Monday through Friday thing. I'm not doing that on the weekends for the most part. But I am significantly going to try to have a 2nd video each day if I can. And that's enough. I appreciate everybody who watches. I really, really do. Like I've said 1,000 times, if I'm ready to get down on bended knee, if anybody could share the videos, that would be awesome. I've lost track of how many different ways I could say it, so I think next video I'm just gonna write a song and start singing a song about sharing the videos. Or maybe I'll just stop asking and then people will share the videos. I don't know. All right. I do appreciate everybody who watches, and I will see you again. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Yep, and I'm still doing a daily for Thanksgiving. So that's still good to go. So thank you all for watching. Mona, I hope it helped. Anybody else who has the same questions? If anybody has questions like that, the Facebook group is Lightwork for Lightworkers. There's a great group of people there that will always answer back. This was one I wanted to take care of personally because it was rather a long question, and you know, it pretty much very involved. But if anybody has any questions like that, comments, needed clarification on anything I rambled about today, that's where I am at the Facebook group. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow morning.